What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in today to another episode here at Airbnb Rental Empire. Today, I'm excited to record this video for you guys because what I'm going to go over today is the entire process and expenses associated with the property that I recently rehabbed from. It was a total gut rehab, turned it into a bespoke Airbnb property. This thing was a remodel from top to bottom. Didn't add any square footage, but did configure some room layouts. Opened up a whole Pandora's box of things that I didn't think I was going to get into when I initially did the projections, and I did end up doing a lot more work than I had initially planned for. But it's one of those things you don't want to cut any corners. I wanted to make sure I was able to provide the best product possible. And once I got into the construction, some other things opened up and I saw other opportunities that it would have been foolish to not take advantage of. So today I want to dive in, all in with the projections that I initially had, followed up with the actual costs that I incurred, and show you guys some of the finished product, and then also show you how it's operating 1 month in, my very first month, the income that I'm able to earn from that month one. I completed this property on June 23rd. And so we're going to go over the month of July. This number is going to be a bit inflated for sure because July is obviously peak season. But at the same time, I only had the property on the market for a week, so I didn't have any reviews. So there's a little bit of a balance there. In terms of next summer, I would anticipate the numbers to be even significantly higher than this July. But nevertheless, I do want to point that out that those numbers in July are going to be peak season for a beautiful property with a swimming pool. So anyways, here, let's dive in and get into these numbers. Okay, so here we're going to start with these projected costs and what I paid for the property. So I paid $855,000 for this property. It was actually a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, a little over 1,600 square feet. And my anticipation was the entire time was to add, make additional bedrooms, make other sleeping quarters out of it to maximize revenue. And that's ultimately what we did, and we'll get into that. But as you can see here, I paid $855,000. My initial plan was to put 15% down as a down payment. I was going to pay some points, closing costs, and here also real estate commissions because I'm actually a broker, so I brokered that deal and received commissions on it. And I anticipated spending $65,000 in improvements. That is what I was hoping to spend on this property. And as you guys are going to see, I blew through that budget. But this is what I initially thought I was going to need. Total cash needed $193,000. And then here are my initial projections. So you can see here the projected gross monthly income, and I put cleaning netted out. And what I mean by that is I'm not projecting the cleaning income. I have to pay the cleaners, and then I'm also receiving income from the Airbnb from each guest to pay for that. So I just net that out. So I don't include the cleaning as expenses, and I also don't include it as income. And so the reality is that these numbers, I'm actually going to receive slightly more income because I charge the guests a little bit more than what the cleaning fee, the actual cleaning fee that I have that I pay to my cleaners is. But that's besides the point. I just wanted to point that out in case you guys are wondering where those cleaning expenses are. So I have monthly utilities projected at $900 per month. And then I had monthly maintenance at 125. This number is definitely going to be higher over time. But considering I was doing a top-down rehab, full remodel, including plumbing and everything, I did not anticipate needing much more than that in terms of monthly maintenance. Again, even if I could revise it, this is what I projected before. If I could revise it, I would probably bump it up a little bit, but that's what I used at that point. And then here is my monthly payment. That's accurate. That's actually what my monthly payment is on the property. And then you can see here my projected monthly profit was $29.41. Now, where I got that from was I took 4 other properties that I had that were similar to this one, relatively close in neighborhood, same bedroom count, same amenities in terms of having a swimming pool. And I basically took here, you can see, let's see if you can see here. So what I did was I took going all the way back, so one of them from 2019, then I used 2020 and 2021 rates, the nightly rates, as well as how many days I had these rented. So you can see here, for instance, for this Laurel property, I had it rented in 2019 on an average of 23.11 days a month. And then I did not have that property anymore in 2020 and 2021. So I used two other ones. Um, and you can see here the so for 2020, yeah, you can see here the for this property Nestle in 2020 I averaged 26 days a month rented, and then in 2021 27.38, and then here for Tampa I had 25.63 days rented, which, and then I didn't have it in 2021. So all in, I basically used all these numbers, and I figured that I would have an average of blend of those three, and it would be 25.32 days a month rented. And my nightly rate was also a blend from these four different properties with a mix of going from 2019 all the way to 2021. I decided to include 2019 because obviously 2020 and 2021 had some major effects. In terms of 2020, most of it was shut down because of COVID, and then we got the crazy blast off in terms of people coming back to travel and stuff in 2021. So you kind of have a blend of all those things. So with that being said, I came to a nightly rate of $352 per night, and that is where I came up with the monthly profit there. The gross monthly income was 25.32 days rented, and then the nightly rate was this. Now, what I did here, though, was I knew that I had the potential of turning this into a 4-bedroom, and so this is actually what I did. And so I put a couple escalators in here in terms of what I would add for adding, going from a 3-bedroom to 4-bedroom. Because while the house was a 2-bedroom when I got it, I knew it was going to be at least a 3-bedroom, so I used these 3 bedrooms as projections. But then when I add the 4th bedroom, and then I also did a bump for it being brand new. So I basically added $60 a month, $60 a night into the average nightly rent, the nightly rate that I would get. And that's how I came up with this projected monthly income. So with that being said, that's what I projected for. Now let's go into actual costs that I incurred on this property. So if we're going to start here with the exterior of the house, some of this is imperfect because I did this while doing the construction, and I just, I didn't want to get too bogged down. I was trying to do my best tracking this, but I couldn't spend an inordinate amount of time itemizing everything perfectly. So some of the stuff is lumped in the wrong line items, and there's some crossover, etc. So you'll see that, and I'll try to do my best to explain it. For instance, here we have exterior of the house. All this landscaping should have probably also been an exterior, but nevertheless, this is how I did it. So labor costs here, a lot of it was front stucco, did some smooth stucco around the property and around some planters and that sort of thing. A roof, we actually redid a part of the roof we redid. It had some very old shingle tiles there that I replaced. So had some costs associated with that. And then the other stuff, paint, a couple new windows. And then here is a deck off of the master bedroom. Here, lumber and timber tech deck material. And then also again here I have another siding stucco. So this is actual. So here you can see there's some overlap in terms of the labor, and then the siding stucco here. There's some labor built into this also. And then you have $3,500 basically in exterior fences and gates. I also did those in TimberTech. So basically, I have almost $20,000 spent there on the exterior of the house, which was actually more because here, when we get into the landscaping, you'll see here labor, front landscaping, this 16 ficus. So I was going to put in 16 ficus. I ended up putting in 24 instead. These were the 15-gallon ones. Paid $85 each, as you can see there, and then paid them $50 each, it looks like, to install. I don't recall exactly, but either way, that is what I spent, almost $2,000. Here you have a carport in the back. I spent a significant amount on that. You got an old carport that was turned into like a cabana veranda, kind of a patio cover, but it was in desperate need of repair. I probably should have, in hindsight, I probably should have just torn it down and redone it. Rebuilt it from scratch, but I didn't. I decided to rehab it and bring it up to speed. So anyways, there's hardy panels, and then built some planters out there. And then this line item here in line 20 is artificial grass. I spent $2,000 on that, which wasn't initially anticipated, but I did decide that it was going to add a nice touch. And then here you have also the pool replastering here of $11,250. This was a significant expense. The pool was in very bad shape, but I decided that I had to make that. I mean, I knew it from the beginning. There was no way I was going to remodel this house and not do the swimming pool. Ended up costing a little bit more than I anticipated, but nevertheless, had to get it done. So here you have another almost $21,000 here. And then next here, we'll get into this middle bathroom. Okay, so here we're going to get into the next part of this, which was the middle bathroom that I redid. This was pretty straightforward, nothing unusual about it. I mean, I think it came out absolutely awesome. And a matter of fact, let's take a look at it. So here is what the bathroom turned into. It kind of had this Asian Zen Eastern flair to it with this faux smooth stucco, Venetian plaster on the walls, put wood on the roof, which I think came out awesome. Redid the shower. And if you look and see how this thing looked before, you will see that this thing was absolutely atrocious. So take a look at this. This is what the bathroom looked like before. It's absolutely terrible and definitely needed something done to it. So if we get back here into the numbers, you'll see I spent $6,600 basically on this bathroom. Then here we'll get into the kitchen. You can see here total, I spent about 20 grand on the kitchen. This was a lot more than I anticipated. Over the course of the project, I did run into, in the middle of COVID, we had supply chain issues. Inflation also hit, expenses went up, and some of the things, just took longer. Some of the things I made some poor decisions and needed to, I needed more time on it, to be honest. I would have, if I could have done it again, I would have brought more people on board. And just done it faster is just the bottom line. I was understaffed and I had the ability to bring on other people, but I didn't think I needed it. And then, it was just a mistake that I made. I should have brought on maximum folks that I could have at the time. And it would have sped up everything, especially in terms of my holding costs and whatnot. So anyways, here in the kitchen, we have labor, almost $6,600. And then the other major expense in here was the cabinets, which was about $6,400. So I was going to order the boxes from IKEA and use those boxes and their hardware, which I think is actually good. And I was just going to do custom doors on that for speed and for cost efficiency. But there was a lot of stuff that was out of stock, and I wasn't comfortable with how long they said it was going to take, and I didn't want to have a 90% built kitchen and then waiting on items forever. So I decided to go fully custom. This was basically my first time building a custom kitchen. Actually, the other time I've done it, I redid a 1969 Airstream and did the kitchen in there recently with custom cabinets. And I figured if I could do that with the curved walls, it would be no problem doing this with square walls. And in fact, it wasn't, but it was just, it was a lot of work. It was big, and there were expenses associated with it that I didn't anticipate. Such as, getting all the wood milled was fine. I have a great place to get all the wood from, and then they actually mill it, which is amazing. I just give them the specs, and it was super cheap. They slice it up, and I get it, and then basically just have to put it together. But one of the things that took forever on there that I didn't anticipate was the holes just to have the shelving in there. It was crazy how time consuming that was. It was probably 3 or 4 full days of labor, 8 hours a day doing all the cabinets with those holes. That was not something I anticipated, and definitely drove up the cost of this. But you can see here, I'm going to show you here, I think the kitchen came out awesome. So these were custom hickory cabinets, and this was maple, I believe. No, this was birch. Sorry, the ones that I painted were birch, but then I did lowers. I did in this hickory, And I think, again, I think it just came out super rad. I'm really happy with the way it came out. But again, it was labor intensive and pretty expensive. Probably not as expensive, definitely not as expensive as it would have been for a custom, custom kitchen getting made from a cabinet maker. But nevertheless, it wasn't cheap. And you can see here the butcher block counters. I think it came out rad. And then I did a faux concrete on the backsplash, which also came out really good. And again, here is another opportunity. You can see what this thing looked like before. It did not look very good. This kitchen was terrible and desperately needed a lot of work done to it. So now if we move to some of the other items here, the bedroom conversion. So here I had one big family room and I turned this into 2 bedrooms. I was going to make it into one big room, one big bedroom to make it 3 bedrooms, but I decided to split it and make it into 2 bedrooms. And then I also, I had a floor in there. It was a sunken floor that didn't look very good. You had to step down into it because again, this house had been hodgepodge. It had had a bunch of additions over the years, and I needed to get rid of that. It was at some point it was a carport, so you step down into the carport. So we actually raised the floor and built a new subfloor there, which was labor intensive and not the most expensive, but it took a lot of labor. So here on this bedroom conversion here, you can see I spent about $13,000. Here you have insulation, you have some doors, lighting and electrical, lumber, and the drywall here. The drywall was 4,500, demo costs, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of standard stuff, but I spent $13,000 on that. There's probably more. The labor costs are way off here. You'll see at the end I have some miscellaneous labor. There was definitely more labor than that. It just ended up in the miscellaneous line item for whatever reason. Here we have the master bedroom. Also here, labor, materials. This was getting towards the end of the project, and I was just trying to streamline this. Before, I was very detailed in how I was reporting it, but then I just tried to kind of lump things together. Um, and if we go to the master bedroom, also, this thing came out absolutely awesome. So you can see here, this had a drop ceiling in it. I blasted that out, vaulted up the ceilings, created a very high open look, put in this French door here. And I just think it came out absolutely awesome. But again, it wasn't cheap, and it wasn't for it had a lot of labor involved, and it definitely took some time. So these are the things that help blow through the budget and help blow through the time frame. And so here we have drywall and insulation, $2,000, and then drywall installation, 5,600. Those items you can probably lump those together. I don't know if the drywall installation. I think there's some labor in there as well. But nevertheless, spent about $11,000 on it. And then here we go into the end of this year. We have miscellaneous labor. So this was just labor I was paying guys. They were doing odd ends and jobs. I didn't know exactly. I wasn't trying to itemize every minute somebody was doing something. It was just too difficult to do. So those got lumped into miscellaneous labor, which is 22,000. That's a lot. I should have, probably, I would have liked to have seen that itemized on the specific line items, but I was just unable to do so. And then here we have also the master bath, 2,000. Let's see, garage, blew out also the ceiling, had another drop ceiling, put in a new garage door, some painting costs. This was definitely higher. Some of these labor costs were in the painting, for sure. I'm going to say probably $2,000, probably $2,500 of miscellaneous labor is here. It should also be for interior paint. Dumping fees, flooring, about $7,000. Miscellaneous electrical, I did not replace the electrical panel, but I did have to do quite a bit of electrical work. Redid all the plumbing lines here. I did PEX and copper verticals. The PEX was cheaper, and I think it's just it was easier and faster to do, so I went with that. And then here's some other line items: pocket door, lighting, some recessed lighting. I definitely spent a little bit more actually than that on lighting. I think it was baked into some of the other line items. Then here we have finishing materials, 5,500, and then miscellaneous for 6,300. So with that being said, my initial budget, as I mentioned, was 65,000, and this thing turned out to be way more than that. So let's see, how much did I actually spend? Boom! I spent $142,000 remodeling this 1,600 1,611 square foot home, I believe it is. So this thing went way over budget. And, what happened? Again, I expanded the scope of work significantly. In this line of work, I can't cut corners, and I don't want to provide a mediocre product. I wanted to provide the best product. And so once I got into it, there were just things that I didn't anticipate, and then things that I saw that I thought were going to really add value. And I went ahead and did those things. So I just kind of forgot about the budget. I didn't really care. I mean, obviously I was conscious of it. I knew I was blowing through it, but I just decided that these were things that I needed to do, and these were things that were going to make it absolutely awesome. And so that's how we got up to that 142,351. And that number would also be higher because, in all honesty, I also worked on the property myself. I definitely had a hand in it. So I provided labor. I definitely general contracted it. If you brought in a contractor, you could almost add probably another $100,000 on that. I would say what I did would probably have been 250,000. With a contractor. And then here are some other aspects of it that I broke down, which are interesting. So here, the days of labor was 225 days of labor. So that is what I projected that I paid. So based on my labor costs associated with the project timeline. So I paid, 225 days of labor. If I have 3 guys there one day, that is 3 days of labor, obviously. And I was paying my guys $160 a day, which was also a very reasonable rate. All things considered, there's not much. You can't really get skilled guys. It's very difficult to get skilled guys these days for less than $200 a day. And here's the timeline. This is also something that is crazy. I thought this thing was going to take 60 to 90 days, as I talked about with you guys. But this thing turned into 7 months. This is crazy. It got way extended. And what's the reason for that? Again, I expanded the scope of work, but also I took on 4 new properties, not that I own, but I took on, the primary aspect of my business is doing Airbnb rental arbitrage, and I took on 4 new properties during this. So I had to shift resources to those properties as well, which set this one back. And in addition to, I had some travel in there, I got COVID in there. I thought this thing was, I just, during the holidays, I had guys that were off for a significant amount of time. And so this thing went way past the, projected timeline. And then also the finishing. I just miscalculated how long the finishing was going to take. I mean, we were 90% done, but that final 5 to 10% just took forever. So the total number of weeks was almost 32. And here is the personal labor days a week. So I put in here, and these other numbers are actual numbers. And then I estimated that I put in about 3.5 days a week in terms of personal labor on the property itself. So that is what I spent on this thing. Now the question is, what am I going to make on it? What are the numbers? What am I looking at? So now let's dive into that next. Okay, so here we have, I finished this property on June 23rd, and I had the very first guest came that day. And so how I did that was actually I took some very crude photos of a little bit of stuff that was finished. I think I had a picture of the bathroom and a picture of the master bedroom, and I put those on Airbnb like 2 weeks before, and I got a booking. I just put that as a firm date. I knew I was leaving the country the next day on June 24th. And I put the 23rd as a firm date that I had to finish by. And I got a booking for that very first day. So here are what the numbers look like. So in June, I got a booking right away for 4 days for a little over $2,000, 514 days a night. But July, this was the very first month that I was completely on the market. And you can see it was a very successful 29 nights booked for a gross rental amount of $21,370. 700 and just under $737 per night. You can see these numbers even blew my expectations out in terms of what I was expecting. I was hoping to have this house done way before. And I was really, I was really concerned about it because I got it done just before, peak season and thinking I didn't have any reviews. But you can see here, I got 10 reservations in July. 7.6 was the average number of guests per reservation. The average gross per reservation was 2,100 and $2,137. And then here is the money earned per rentable day. This is basically the same thing as hotels. They use a metric commonly called RevPAR, which is revenue per available room. And so that calculates, because if you just say the room rate, so here, for instance, I have the average nightly rate of $737. That's great. But what if you only rent the house out for one night per month and you got $737? That's completely useless because that's all that you made. So that's why the hotels use this metric RevPAR. And I just call it money earned per rentable day because that's what it is. There's nothing else to it. So for me, the money earned per rentable day is $689. And so you want that number as high as possible. And obviously, I rented it for 29 nights at this rate. And that's what that comes out to. You can see here we are in the middle of August. I already have August booked for 23 days at a higher nightly rate, about $60 per night higher. The total gross rental amount is lower still right now, but I'm hoping to, and I think I will fill it up. I think I will at least match this. I don't know if I'm going to get the 29 nights booked. But here you can see a little over $3,000 is the gross rent, average gross from the reservation. And then here you have the money earned per rentable day. Again, it's down from last month, as you can see, because I only have it rented for 23 days. So that number will increase though as I get more days booked. Now here are the totals. Also, actually, here you can see VRBO. I don't have any days booked on VRBO, and that's because the VRBO basically dropped the bomb and they got sued by the city of Los Angeles because they were allowing a bunch of permits they were allowing people to put properties on the platform that did not have permits in place, and the city is suing them. And sadly, VRBO is not allowing any new listings in the city of Los Angeles. So that's why I don't have any bookings for that, because that is a big revenue source for other properties. But here you can see, again, the totals. You can see refunds, bad debt. So that is a line item that I use if I have to give people a credit for something that I call it bad debt, but it's not really bad debt. It's a refund for something that I could have prevented or an issue at the property. So let's say the air conditioner goes out for a night or something and you have to give somebody a refund. I consider that part of this refunds bad debt, because it's basically, it's something that I'm at fault of. I could have, maybe I wasn't at fault for it, but it's something related with the property. It's not a refund for any other reason other than that. So you can see, like, for instance, in this case, I think it was the very first guest, I believe, or actually, I don't remember if it was the first. No, it wasn't the first guest, because now I'm in this first guest. You can see I refunded them $75. I think it was because there was no propane or something like that missing, and they purchased and I reimbursed them for it. And then here in July, one day there were super high winds and a guest checked in who was super picky, and they were complaining about leaves in the pool and made a big stink, etc. So that was at least part of it. I don't remember what the other stuff was, but obviously there are some little issues there where I'm given refunds, which is never good, but it's part of the business. It's just a matter of fact. You never want to keep everybody happy. And sometimes I give those refunds actually pretty generously because I want to prevent a bad review. So if somebody's not happy and they're asking for a little bit of a refund, or maybe even if they're not asking for a refund, I offer that proactively because I want them to feel that they still had a good reservation and they got their money's worth. So getting back here to the average nightly rate. So that nightly rate included my cleaning fees. So it's a little bit misleading there because obviously I have cleaning expenses in that. So I like to know what is my average nightly rate less the cleaning fees also. I use both of these numbers because the average nightly rate, obviously sometimes I'll increase the cleaning fee, but my cleaning fees stay fixed. And so I can earn a little bit more revenue that way. So it does make a difference in terms of the total rental amount that I earn if with the cleaning fees included in that. But I also like to know what it is without the cleaning fees in terms of what is the raw nightly rate that I'm getting. And so the average nightly rate without the cleaning fee was about $677 in the month of July, which is much higher than my projections. Like I showed you guys before, I had projected, I think, $412 over the course of the year. And this is obviously significantly higher. This is also peak season. So I know these numbers are going to come down. It's obviously it's going to be lower than that over the course of the year. But nevertheless, I'm happy with it. It's a good start, for sure, especially considering I didn't have any reviews when I started this thing. So I'm very happy with how this property has turned out, and the reviews and the feedback that I've gotten have just been amazing. So going back here to it, we have the nightly rate 677. The average number of days booked in advance was about 12 days. In August, 13 and a half days. Kind of interesting here, you can see in August, the reservations seem to be for longer, because I only had 6 reservations for 23 days. And then the other one, I had 10 reservations. Part of that is because I didn't have a lot of lead time. So people are, booking for short trips, quick trips, that sort of thing. The average number of guests a reservation. And again, here we have the money earned per rentable day and the vacancy. So, I mean, overall, you guys can see like these numbers are way higher than what I thought. This thing, I blew out the budget, obviously, on this thing. So coming back to in terms of what it was that I put into it, this is significantly higher. And so here now, if we switch over to the actual returns on this, let's take a look at this. So here we have the actual returns in terms of what I'm looking at here. So purchase price, $855,000. The down payment, I actually only ended up putting 10% down, because the rates were almost the same actually. And so I wanted to, get in there. I didn't see any reason to put down an extra 5%. And discount points, so I paid 1.5 points. Closing costs, $85.50. And then here you have less the real estate commission. So I received, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a broker, so I received 2.5% on this. So that definitely, helps everything here, in terms of the numbers. Not obviously everybody's going to have that, they have that scenario, but nevertheless, that was something that I had here. Improvements, $142,351. Again, I can't believe I spent that much, blew this thing out. The total cash that was basically out of pocket, total cash needed, $227,000 and 851 cents. And then here you have the projected gross monthly income. So this is now, this is going off of that 4-bedroom figure. So I think I actually misspoke on the other one. So the previous projections were for a 3-bedroom, but this is using, the previous projection was using this nightly rate of 352. But the actual cost, the actual returns here, so this is using that $412 a night figure that I have based on it being a 4-bedroom. Monthly utilities, I have $900 per month. Monthly maintenance, $175. So I did increase that a little bit. I still think, because I rehabbed everything, there shouldn't be much in terms of maintenance, on this, at least for some foreseeable time. Obviously, there will be things that come up. So I have a operating income of $9,358 basically. And then my total monthly payment is $4,948, giving me a monthly profit expected to be $4,410. And that is after paying principal and interest on this loan. And that comes out to a cash on cash return of 23.22%. And now that is, very good. I'm very happy with that. This is a premier property in a very good location. This property really came out top notch. I did not spare any expenses. As you guys know, I blew through the budget, which, wasn't the intention initially. But, there were just features that I felt I needed to add. And I did the math in terms of adding the 4th bedroom versus having a 3-bedroom. that math added up. I'm just able to command a higher nightly rate and get a better return on investment. So, that was the reason that I did that. I knew that the numbers were going to be, I initially at least thought, I didn't know because I blew through it, but 65,000 to 80,000, I kind of had in that range. Yeah, we ended up at 142,000 and change. But, and like I had mentioned to you guys also in previous videos, this is also a property that I could live in. If regulations changed, if for whatever reason I wanted to live in it, I could do that. I mean, the current property that I'm living in, I don't even own that house. I own other real estate as well. But if I ever wanted to move into this property, it is that quality in terms of something that I could live in. Certainly, it's only about 10 minutes from my house right now. Um, and that was a factor in terms of why I chose to purchase this property and do what I did, because obviously what I preach to you guys is also what I practice. Majority of it out of my entire portfolio of Airbnb properties, of short-term rental properties, this is the only one that I currently own where I do short-term rentals with. And the reason was, I wanted to have some skin in the game in terms of some ownership and locking in a 30-year fixed at a low interest rate, which is what I did, and then right after that rates went up. So, it was a good decision in my eyes. I view it as a good decision. I think it's going to, pay dividends in the long run. And I'm really happy with it. But again, it's not what I primarily do, but I wanted to show you guys, what the, open up exactly what these numbers were, what it is that it cost me to remodel this thing, and what it is that I'm making on it. I know you guys are interested in that stuff. I'm always interested in that when other people share it. And here we are, 23.22 is the expected cash on cash return. If I take out the broker's fees, so if I take out that $21,000 in broker fees that not all of you guys would have in a situation like this, the cash on cash return is still 21.4% or something like that. So it does go down a little bit. But it's still a very good return in my eyes. And I also think an important thing is I also think that those numbers are somewhat conservative. I did not get aggressive with those numbers at all in terms of what I'm expecting to earn on that property. Is it realistic? Yeah, it's somewhere in there realistic, but I think it's erring on the side of on the lower end of things rather than on the higher end of things. So I think that ultimately my returns are probably going to be closer to 25%, 25, 26% cash on cash is, what I'm expecting. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm glad I was able to share these numbers with you guys just as much as I was glad to finally get this project done. 100 and whatever it was, no, not 100 and something, 222 days, 7 months, 7.5 months this thing took. It was way longer than I expected. But I'm glad I was able to share it with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do, and I'll be back with some more stuff for you guys soon. Thank you.